Man, oh man, it's late. Welcome everyone to Hogvillenet YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. It is my post-game. Arkansas, the 16th ranked team in the country, takes down number one Kansas 85-69 at Bud Walton Arena in a charity exhibition game. We know Kansas was more shorthanded than Arkansas. The Razorbacks without all SEC transfer big man Jonas Adu. Kansas without all everything big man Hunter Dickinson, 7'2", 265 pounds. The last time he faced a John Calipari coach team was against Kentucky last year, a 5-point win in November, around the same time of year, 27 points, 21 rebounds. You understand Kansas was also missing two transfer guards that were going to factor in big to this. So you have to take this result, first of all, because of those factors, take it into some kind of measure beyond Arkansas legitimately knocking off a number one team at full strength. The other thing is, even if you win a game with all hands on deck, we saw what happened in the preseason and the exhibition season last year. Different context, different team. And man, I'm going to tell you what though, let's just get right into the meat of this because we're going to talk recruiting later. Arkansas did look really good, I think, at both ends of the court at times, and really jumped out early, 8-2, and just kept their foot on the gas. There were times that Kansas made a few runs. Arkansas got sloppy with the ball in the second half. Both teams had 10 turnovers in the second half. But when the dust settled, Arkansas was better shooting from the field. I thought their offensive movement, ball movement, and execution was better, even though Kansas moved the ball well. Some unforced turnovers, some stuff. Arkansas's guards just ate them up. DJ Boogie and DJ, what a duo. Thank you for that comment. That's absolutely right. Look, Bill Self said this. I could have led with this. Bill Self said this in the post-game presser. One of the first things he said was his team will not face a better trio of guards than Boogie Fland, DJ Wagner, and Nelly Davis. Now, this wasn't Nelly Davis's night offensively. He looked rusty to me. Did some really good, kind of hustle play activity out there, which is why he stuffs a stat sheet in his collegiate career. People look at the scoring and the three-point shooting and some of those things, but the guy's always been a blue-collar stat sheet stuffer, and we saw some of that tonight. But Self said that Kansas will not face a backcourt as good as that Arkansas presented all season long. That's a huge statement. There's a lot of basketball to go. Obviously, we're just getting started. Nelly's wrist still bothering him. Good, that could be possible. Thank you for the comment. He certainly looked rusty. I thought, and I love though, seeing in the second half, Arkansas was running stuff for him. There was a set where Arkansas was setting screens on the left side and rotating players, trying to set screens with Boogie Fland out high with the ball, and they set the screens on the right side of the floor to bring him right. But really, the action was all set up for Nelly Davis to emerge from the baseline out to the top, and so you could pass it and not and have spacing on that side and not very many defenders on the left side. He missed a three-point shot there, but Arkansas was really looking for Davis to get up some shots tonight. Some he forced, some weren't very good shots that he took. But here's a guy that's been out. He's rusty. And when he was walking off the court, we made eye contact, and I kind of murmured, "It's coming." And he heard what I said. He goes, "It's coming." And so I have no doubt about that. But for Bill Self to make such a statement about Arkansas's guards at this juncture, like Calipari said in his post-game press conference, this team hasn't been together for very long. Boogie Fland looked so comfortable. I told everyone after being at both of those tip-off tour events, he was the best guard out of the group that was available, as good as DJ Wagner was at time in those events. I thought Boogie Fland stood out more than any of the guards. Trevor in Brazil, because you didn't have a Duke Thero and you didn't have Jonas Adu participating, you had guys out, really stood out in those settings. Not as much tonight, playing off the bench, by the way, for Trevor in Brazil. And so right now Arkansas's got players in the press room. This was getting so late that I decided to miss that tonight. Normally I don't. And usually we don't have the opposing coach and players anymore in for post-game stuff. We did last year in an exhibition game against Purdue, and then after that, I don't think it happened again during the regular season. So it was back to that format tonight. So there was a lot of extra time between Kansas's players, Bill Self, then Calipari, and then I think Boogie Fland. I don't know who else was in there because I came out here to try to get this going. I've got to get back to Little Rock tonight, so I'm missing Arkansas's player interviews. I'll be able to catch that later when it gets put out on YouTube. Brazil is more aggressive. I love to see it. Big Z did great. He just needs to get more rebounds. Yeah, I think Big Z physically, some of the strength stuff, I think there are times and stretches where he's kind of getting pushed around and manhandled a little bit, getting to the basketball. And those were problems we've seen with Trevor Brazil in the past. Brazil showed some good stuff tonight, but I think he's, A guy that now, when I see Adu Thero back in the lineup and was a starter, you could say, well, what can you really take away from this setting? I mean, I think Thero's probably going to be plugged in and counted on as a starter. So, I mean, Brazil may be a guy that comes off the bench. With Jonas Adu out, all bets are off, though. As long as he's out, he did not move well in those practices that I saw when he did limited drill work. He was not moving well. He's missed a lot of time. Calipari will be licking his chops to get him back, and we don't know if that'll be in the exhibition season. Arkansas goes to TCU next Friday, a week from tonight, for that second charity exhibition game. This place was nearly packed. I'd say there was probably, I think the official box score is going to show a sellout 19,200. I would estimate between 17 and 18,000 butts and seats tonight at Bud Walton Arena. It was a lot of energy. John Calipari got the largest ovation when the whole team was introduced. He got the largest ovation. Trevor Brazil got a big one. Most of the players did. Boogie Fland, I noticed, did, but I think all of them really got good ovations. But Arkansas put the hammer on the nail head right out of the gates, and as good as Fland, what did he have? 22, 23 points. He had DJ Wagner with 24. I thought they were actually defensively, and Calipari talked about this, and so did Bill Self. Everyone's going to talk about their offense, and Arkansas needs what they did. But their defense was incredible. I thought Boogie Fland was such a disruptor. It's stuff we talked about going back to all-star games after his senior season of high school, McDonald's and some of those other ones he participated in. I kept noticing, for a little guy, he's disruptive, and he puts his nose in the fray, and his instincts. He anticipates. His timing's really good. He's just John Calipari said he's just a basketball player. He's just out there playing basketball. Well, and that sounds like an obvious statement. There's a slobbering hog. Let's call it out. Kind of in the distance there. I'm still at Bud Walton Arena, but a 16-point win, yes. But there were some veteran players that were on Kansas's sweet national championship team, as well as the team that Arkansas beat 2 years ago to get to the Sweet 16, DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams. So those guys have won at the highest level, and they're still part of this. And they had their moments. There were times where both of those guys were trying to keep Kansas in it, and then Boogie Fland or DJ Wagner would make a defensive play. Arkansas would get out and transition. What have I said from day one when Arkansas hired John Calipari? His best teams perform better, and sometimes the difference in games is transition, and I thought that was the case tonight. Kansas made a few mini runs to get it within 9 or 7 a few times after Arkansas built double-digit leads, and Arkansas usually in those situations turn things around by getting a steal and getting out in transition and getting a finish. Those are, to me, vintage John Calipari teams, is turning tables that way. And if you look at this, Arkansas shot better from the field, 48+% to Kansas's 20 or 45. Enough of a difference there, but the free throw line was wild. 23 of 28, over 82% for the Hogs, only 4 of 10 for Kansas. Arkansas was really active getting to the basket, attacking. And some of those Kansas fouls were trying to prevent Arkansas from getting some of the transition and secondary stuff, but also the Arkansas spacing and ball movement was good enough where Kansas was put in some tough spots when Arkansas was driving, getting closer to the basket. And so their physicality led to some fouls on that. It's a big free throw disparity. Arkansas was much better percentage-wise and volume-wise. Arkansas was better in the turnover game. They were +4 at halftime and ended up that way. Both teams with 10 in the second half. Arkansas only 3 turnovers in the first half, but +9 in points off turnovers. So Arkansas cashed those in at a higher rate, a much better rate than Kansas did. And then in transition, Arkansas finishes +6, 16-10 there. That disparity was bigger for a while. Arkansas had some sloppy stretches here late in the fourth quarter, and in the fourth quarter that helped Kansas kind of get closer in that. Kansas was a little better in the paint. I think 44-40, so +4 there. Had one more rebound overall. I think 3 or 4 more offensive rebounds, and maybe a +5 in second chance points, 13-8. But overall, when you shoot better both from the field and at the free throw line, both teams not great from 3. I think Kansas hit 7 threes, shooting 30%. Arkansas made only 6, shooting about 25%. Arkansas was 25% in both halves from 3. But you love seeing DJ Wagner knock down his first 2. 8 quick points as Arkansas established an early lead for Wagner. 8 quick points for Boogie Fland, and they just kept scoring. A lot of that was off their defense. And then Big Z, we talked about at the tip-off tour event, how he was such a force playing out high as a passer on backdoor cuts. You saw his passing tonight. Z with 18 points, I think 6 rebounds, and 4 or 5 assists. I mean, he did a good job distributing. I think he had a blocked shot. We went back to Flan's numbers. I'm probably getting this wrong a little bit, going off memory. 22 or 23 points, 6 steals, 5 assists, a couple of rebounds. DJ Wagner, last I checked, led Arkansas with 24 points. I think he had 4 or 5 rebounds. And I don't know how many steals he ended up with, but he very disruptive defensively. You had some other guys. Carter Knox, the true freshman, with 9 points. I thought of Duke Thiel, only 1-1 from the field. Arkansas had a 6-0 run to start the third quarter to really stretch that 12-point halftime lead to 18. And to me, Kansas never really, I always felt like Arkansas was going to find a way to maintain control. But Thiel got a dunk. But really, it wasn't offense with him. I thought he was disruptive and physical defensively. And he had 5 rebounds. Brazil ended up with 5 points and 5 rebounds. Nelly Davis, only 2 of 9 from the field. He did hit a 3, 1 of 6. They tried to get him involved offensively. But what you love to see about him again is that blue-collar effort and that toughness that Calipari talked about, but it was evident. If you look at his rebound, I don't remember if he finished with 1 or 2 rebounds, but it felt like he was battling for 8 or 9 of them, and then that helped Arkansas. Another thing, 50-50 balls, loose balls. He was going to the floor. He was being physical. You love Nelly Davis. I'm telling you, it's a matter of time before he gets his flow back and his rhythm back. He's been out a while again. He looked rusty to me, but still putting forth the effort. And Billy Richmond did some good things. I thought some of the things he tried to do defensively foretell positive things for him, especially on that end of the floor. We know he's electric, finishing around the rim. That stuff will come. But, and again, Jonas Adu is out. So Arkansas was shorthanded too, just not as much as Kansas. I think it would have been a different game had Kansas been at full strength, but I don't know that Arkansas wouldn't have won it. This is an impressive team already, but they got to carry it over. It's got to carry over, and you're going to have some mishaps and some slip-ups, and you're also going to have some nights where collectively they even play better than they did tonight, because there's things that can be improved. I think Calipari would like to see a little better, tougher effort on the glass, and maybe preventing some of those second chance opportunities. And some of those things were kind of like messy plays that got messy, and Arkansas just got beat to some 50-50 balls, and Kansas got some easy looks, got several dunks in this game in the first half, the Jayhawks did. Not as much of that in the second half. And then the turnovers in the second half, Arkansas and Kansas both with 10. If Arkansas cleans it up on that end in that second half a little bit and knocks down 2 or 3 more threes, we're not talking about a 16-point win. We might be pushing 25 plus in the win column again against a team that was short-handed. So much impressed with everything tonight, from the crowd turnout, from the offensive performance and defensive performance, maybe not for the total of 40 minutes split up into 4 quarters instead of 2 halves, but for the longest stretches of the game, Arkansas was the better team against a shorthanded team. I keep mentioning that just because it's hard to say that you beat the number 1 team in the country by 16 points when they had 3 of their key guys out and you only were missing 1. But no excuses for Kansas tonight. Bill Self did say that's not our team, but at the same time, he gave Arkansas credit and said they got beat. DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams, I talked about those two. Statistically, in some ways, they were good. I thought DeJuan Harris also had some, issues with Boogie Fland and DJ Wagner both. For a veteran guy, that's really good, and he acknowledged that. He owned up to it. Both of those veteran guys, owned up to their problems. So, you like hearing that in that press conference. Bill Self, nothing but complimentary to John Calipari in this program. And not only did he say they won't face a better backcourt than Arkansas has as they move down the line in their season, but he also said that he thinks this will end up being one of Calipari's better teams compared to some of his good Kentucky teams. So in 15 years at Kentucky, with all that Calipari did, you'd want a little more context to know exactly what he means by that. I don't know if he's saying this Arkansas team can be as good as Calipari's best 5 teams. Remember, Kentucky was really good in 15 years. The postseason, not so much the last 5, but some of those teams were really good in the regular season as well. So, exactly, how much of a statement he was making there, I still think it's a compliment, and I'm sure he means it. And then Calipari said it's kind of early to say things like that, but I think Calipari had to feel good about how far along his team is with so many guys that have missed, practicing against GAs, and it being such a new group. I think he has to feel good about this. And what Kansas put out there wasn't chopped liver. It's not like the Jayhawks without their top 3 guys. Everything else was, guys that aren't really in the rotation. These are all players. A lot of their newcomers are going to be guys they're going to be counting on. And Kansas did some good things tonight, but I thought Arkansas, based on who was out there, was the superior team. The scoreboard said it. I don't have to, but I agree with the scoreboard. I mean, again, if Arkansas cleans up a few things here and there, and Kansas can make the same claim, but I thought it was better than a loss. This was more of a real game. There was some debate about that based on things Calipari had been saying, based on what Bill Self said in a press conference on Wednesday, where he didn't think it would be a real game atmosphere and it might be more like a practice. And then John Calipari cleaned that up with a tweet yesterday saying, no, this will be a real game. Well, that's what it looked like to me. So I don't know if they changed here at the end because of some pushback, either from SEC Network or fans or a combination of some of that, or I don't know how the wires got crossed, but whatever it was, I think this had a real game feel other than the guys that were missing. Obviously that matters. Okay. And we've already said that. All right. 16 minutes in, I'm not going an hour tonight. There's probably some stuff I'm not talking about, and haven't said, just going individually, DJ Wagner with his struggles shooting from three last year, 2 for 4. That's a good enough sample size. For the kind of volume you'll probably see from him. And we'll see how consistent it is moving forward. He looked healthy. He looked strong. His drive game was really nice. He knows how to use his body to create separation when it's needed to get a nice shot off and a clean look and a good finishing angle. And then he went glass and used that glass, I thought, really well on some of his drives. Boogie Fland, man, his pull-up mid-range game, getting all the way to the cup, his pace. He plays at his own. He made some mistakes, but Fland's pace and his setup, how he sets and reads situations. Don't forget 20-plus points and 5 assists. The 6 steals, man, and aside from the steals, he had at least 2 or 3 other plays where he deflected the ball off a Jayhawk and it went out of bounds or led to some disrupted set. So he was pushing 10 deflection/disruption plays on defense alone. Maybe it exceeded that. It was impressive. DJ Wagner was a physical defender. He was impressive. I thought Trevor Brazile at times, kind of big boy, had a few plays where it looked like he was big boy in the available Kansas Jayhawks on the front line that were out there. You expect that. You want to see that from Trevor Brazile. Boogie is elite, man. He looks really good. He does look like the score first but capable setup guy that I've seen. But his confidence, his 3-point shot, he's not bashful, and he's taking those with confidence and belief, and he's knocking them down. Now tonight, I think he only went 1 of 6. In those practices, I mentioned how good he was. That was practice. Tonight, yeah, okay, so he missed some, but he takes them with confidence, and most of the ones he missed looked like they were going in tonight. So I think he's a guy that's going to continue to give Arkansas a shot in the arm offensively. He and DJ Wagner, we talked for so long about both of those guys are going to take turns running Arkansas's offense. Boogie Fland to me looks to be the more natural lead guard, actually. I thought DJ Wagner, had an NBA scout texting me during the game and asking me what I thought and asking me for evals. And here I am trying to tweet, take notes, get prepared for stuff, and I'm having conversations back and forth. The John Calipari effect is wild because as much as I have interaction with all kinds of people while I'm here, it's like times 10 tonight. I had him coming from all corners wanting to talk about this team while the game was going on. But I have a feeling that Boogie Fland may be the more natural floor leader in terms of offense running through him as a primary handler. Not that DJ Wagner won't do it and can't do it. I like him on the court in tandem, and I like DJ Wagner's ability. He's a better offensive player than a guy like Corey Beck years ago, but Corey Beck at 6'2", kind of big boy folks. He played some bully ball, and he played like he thought he was bigger than he was. DJ's a better, it's a different brand of game now. And DJ's better offensively probably than Corey, but he also at 6'3", I think they list him at 6'4". He's probably 6'3", but he gets into those bully ball drives and he plays tough. But I think those guys can play together and complement each other. I really like that. And with Nelly Davis, once he gets going, that's going to be, to me, if tonight is a harbinger, that's where most of your scoring is going to come from, is that backcourt. I think I recently said after watching those limited practices that I wouldn't be surprised after Nelly Davis if it's not Boogie Flan and Trevor Brazil, and among with Davis, the Arkansas's top 3 scorers this season. Based on what I saw tonight, it may just be those 3 guards that lead the way. This is one outing, but you can tell the guys that haven't been missing practice, and that's DJ Wagner and Boogie Flan. They were operating a smooth machine out there, like those reps together, really playing together on the court at the same time, paid dividends tonight. That's what it looked like to me. And again, Big Z with the passing, but he did some good stuff. That spin move baseline and the dunk. Some of his footwork on offense was a little either delayed or hesitant or not, didn't get it as deep as he might have wanted to, but he's got a nice touch. I thought he should have probably been a little stronger rebounder tonight. There's some other things with him, but look, he played 15 games as a true freshman last year, and his talent's undeniable. I can't wait to see Jonas do with this group and Arkansas really get into its rotations. Again, I think Adu Thera was also kind of thawing out a little bit. He's missed some time, and you see with his physicality and some of that man-child ability and that athleticism, he attacked tonight. Thera at times attacked, and then defensively, I think he is going to be a key. I really do. I think this can be one of Calipari's better defensive teams relative to the last few years. And you say, well, that doesn't say a lot. They were really bad last year. The year before that, they weren't great. But look, to me, he's got all the firepower offensively. I'm still got question marks about Arkansas's efficiency from 3, especially when you go 25% and shoot 24 threes or whatever they did. But I think they got plenty of firepower, especially when we talk transition and then finding advantages and getting leverage on drives in the half court. And again, Boogie Flan's mid-range pull-up game, I think we're going to see an array of shot making from Nelly Davis once he gets going and gets back into the flow. So I don't worry about him offensively, except maybe, again, question marks from 3. But what I do think is defensively, they can move a needle relative to where Kentucky's teams have been in recent years, and that may be significant because if you're putting it together at both ends with talented players, Arkansas can not only live up to a top 16 ranking if these things continue to progress and come together moving forward. Not saying this game sells it that it does. It solidifies nothing to guarantee that, but we see the pieces both ends. I saw good at both ends, and no major problems in terms of that's glaring, that's going to be a problem all year. I did not identify that tonight, so I want to put that out there. All right, 22 minutes in, let's get into recruiting. You guys can bring up some questions. I've caught some of them tonight. I believe the Hogs would have won even with Dickinson maybe. Pleasantly surprised overall. Yeah, again, that's a different Kansas team with a 7-2 guy that's a fifth-year guy that's dominated a lot of college games and really good. 7-2 and 265. That changes what Big Z's able to do. And it creates different dynamics. You put him with KJ Adams and DeJuan Harris, and this might have been a battle to the end. Or Kansas might have, established itself with a game where they were maybe in control, even if they didn't win in a blowout, maybe controlling some things. So we don't know that. We don't know the answer to that. I do think Arkansas had the firepower out there tonight, even without Jonas Adu, where it's possible they could have had a game where they would beat this team with Dickinson in at full strength. So I'm not going to rule that out, but I do think it would be wrong to say if Kansas had their 2 guards and Dickinson out here that they also maybe couldn't have won a game like this. But just, it was just, again, the alternative is much, much worse than what happened. The alternative's losing. And even in an exhibition game, you want to win them. And you could tell Calipari had a little pep in his step, even though he said, pump the brakes on what this means at the same time. You could see that he was proud of the fact that he's assembled a team, a lot of stuff he got done late taking this job, and he feels good about, what they've worked on and where they've gotten to this, at least to this point. There were more positives that came from him tonight than some of the stuff that did bother him, which was the second half turnovers, some of the lack of control of physicality and rebounding, some of the things he did address. All right, nearly 25 minutes in, I keep saying I'm getting recruiting. Look, the last time we were on just a few days ago, this has turned into another Midnight Madness, by the way. I guess my third in the last 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But We talked a lot about Malik Thomas. The last time I was on, I mentioned to you guys, I went through a big spiel. Not only did I talk about that I had a source that's gotten it to me now that he had informed the Arkansas staff that he's going to be a Razorback. My big caveat, I've got a bunch of reasons for this, because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. This recruitment's been interesting. But my biggest concern, even with a private commitment, a silent commitment, was this open visit to Kansas State. And this open question, was he going to take it this weekend? So if you remember, when I came on Wednesday, it was Tuesday night actually. I came on Wednesday night, but Tuesday night is when I had that source info about the commit. What I didn't know from that source, and he hadn't found out at that point, was he still going to take that visit? If it's a silent commit, it's not public. If you're publicly committed, you're not taking more visits. If you're silent commit, you might. I mean, I go back, and then you're like, well, what coaching staffs are okay with that? I don't know that Calipari and his staff would be, but I can tell you one thing. I believe Malik Monk, way back in the day, what was that, 2016, I believe he was a private silent commit to Kentucky, and he still took the home state visit to Arkansas. Bobby Portis flew in and was hanging out with him. Remember that? And the talking points from his older brother, Marcus Monk, who was handling his recruiting, was that Malik Monk's going to wait until the spring to sign. He's not making an early decision. And he took that Arkansas visit, and it wasn't long after that where they moved it up for Cal, and they got it done. In the early, they did it early, and he was off the board to Kentucky. And I'll always look back on that and thought, I think he was actually probably committed to Kentucky. And ended up taking the home state visit. So I don't know that for a fact. I think it might be the case. So you just never know how those things play out. I said all that to say my source was trying to then run down, well, what about this Kansas State visit from Malik Thomas now that he's got this private silent commitment to Arkansas? And I never got that from him, but I got it from another guy who's in NBA circles who reached out to me and said, look, you can't tweet this out. I put it over on hogville.net because they're going to know it came from me. He said, but the night you did your YouTube live and talked about this private commitment, he goes, sometime that night, Kansas State canceled that visit with Malik Thomas. So if it's coming from Kansas State, I don't know if that's how they want to paint it and that's accurate, or if he canceled with them. I guess things could have changed between, that was yesterday when I found this out, and supposedly Wednesday night when I did the YouTube is when that visit was canceled. I guess something could work out where Malik Thomas is no longer silently or privately committed to Arkansas and he takes that visit. There was a lot of stuff going on with his UConn recruitment and upcoming visits he wanted to take that became tangled up and probably was the reason why they parted ways. And so that's why I kept talking about that outstanding visit, no matter how good I felt about it, Malik Thomas's visit when he was on campus at Arkansas, how great it went, how I told you at that time, I see this as Arkansas's to win. And I kept throwing out, except if it goes on that visit. One of these episodes I mentioned, Kansas State was willing to throw a lot of NIL money at a couple of 5-stars to try to package together at least 2, and maybe would exceed something where Arkansas will have valuation limits on guys and they won't overstep it. Look, Caleb Wilson, I'm getting more info today. I told you all recently, I think it was a couple of episodes ago, that Caleb Wilson, the 5-star of Atlanta. Well, before I go there, I'm doing this again. Let's first say, okay, Malik Thomas, if anybody sees any evidence that he's on Kansas State's campus this weekend, that means something changed again. That can happen in recruiting. I just don't see it. I'm told the visit was canceled. So we'll pay attention to social media. We'll see if he actually goes there. To me, that pretty much closes it up and wraps it for Arkansas, even though we've said that's where it's going. And I said he likely wouldn't take the visit. I wanted the security of knowing that it wouldn't happen. So I got that, I think. We'll see if that ends up being accurate. I think it probably is. I think it's a good source, and we'll see about that. So I quadrupled down on my Pittsburgh gifts on a tweet after I got that information, and since I couldn't actually directly say out on social media that visit was canceled. Some other interesting stuff going back to Caleb Wilson. I found out, I've heard a couple of people have told me today, I think recently, the last episode of the one before that, I mentioned that Kentucky, one of the beat writers on that end said several things, and one of them was Kentucky had edged up its NIL offer to just over $1 million. Thought it was just a few days ago, I don't know, a week ago or so. I'm told today that Kentucky's stepping out with $2 million. Now, I've heard it from more than one. I don't know, I can't confirm that or verify it. I don't know if that's true, but this is what Kentucky did with Brandon Garrison, not the dollar amount, but they really increased what they were saying they were going to do to what they felt was necessary to lock up a player And there's a lot to me there. I think there's a lot of John Calipari fear in that, especially since he and Chin Coleman and Kenny Payne were out to see Caleb early in the week. And the dad, according to Adam Zagori, is now talking about that Arkansas visit. What I said forever was he was to visit this week. And that's the other thing. Arkansas, I tweeted this out either last night, I think late, not today, I think it was last night, that I'm told they will not have any visitors this weekend. And what I said about Caleb Wilson, there was always one planned, but it got so quiet. Not only was it not coming out publicly, but I wasn't getting any yes or no's on that. So I kept saying, I'm just going to stick with he is until I hear that he's not. Well, I heard that he's not, and that's why I put that tweet out. But the last time we were on, I also went through some possible upcoming dates if he's going to sign early. I ran through all of that the last time we were on. Some possible dates in early November as we move forward a little bit, potentially even next week, which would be late October if you did it during midweek. Arkansas's at TCU Friday. I know that Arkansas is talking to players about potentially coming in to go to a football game that weekend. That's what I said maybe for Caleb Wilson was Saturday, November 2nd. Arkansas will be back from TCU in basketball, and the football Hogs are hosting Ole Miss. So there's a potential to have people in then, and then even a few days after that. And then I think Arkansas is off to the races once they get into their regular season, obviously, and book in that first week between playing here at home, where you potentially could bring in someone for a visit then. Then you play Baylor on the road that weekend, so you're probably not going to have a visitor, and that's on a Saturday, so you're right in the middle of the weekend. And then there's a dead period after that for 3 or 4 days, and then the early signing period. So there are still windows for Caleb Wilson to visit. And I think some people took one of the things I said was if he didn't make it this weekend, that Arkansas's out. No, what I said was if he doesn't visit Arkansas and he signs early, obviously Arkansas's out, and that until I heard differently, this would be the weekend to visit. I heard differently, but I don't have any information moving forward on when it might happen. If he signs early, I've just walked through again when the possible visit dates will be. It's a shrinking window. And then maybe he waits till the spring. Maybe that changes. I've been under the impression he's going to try to get in early. If he does, then that opens up a lot of opportunity to visit Arkansas or anywhere else. A lot of people still think it's Kentucky. If Kentucky stepped up with $2 million, that's if that's true, I mean, it may end up that this guy's going to be a Wildcat. UNC's in the picture. And so, keep an eye on Caleb Wilson, Chris Sinak, Sean Abive. I think Arkansas is in great shape with Sean Abive. He just released his top 5 schools. Arkansas's in there. Auburn's in there. Cincinnati, a couple others. But, Arkansas, got at least one source that think or another national recruiting analyst who thinks Arkansas is in the lead there. Malik Thomas, to me, that's Arkansas. Second 5-star commitment, ranked in the top 10, and so it needs to go public. It just needs to go public now. Weird things happen in recruiting, but I expect Arkansas will get Malik Thomas. Who am I leaving out here? Nate Ament, we'll keep an eye on that. He's a guy that may wait till the spring. And interesting, today I was at Springdale High School. I wanted to go see Isaiah Cely. It's been quiet with him, and Arkansas's recruiting him. ESPN has him ranked the 55th best player in the country, a 4-star. Springdale High, went to their practice to get some video of him and interview him. And, man, I wasn't there 5 minutes, and I found out that he'd been to Arkansas basketball practice on Wednesday of this week. So he told me for a while he was going to come to a practice. He wasn't sure yet when. Well, he was here Wednesday, and they practiced in Bud Walton, not in the Performance Center. I like that. John Calipari getting them in here and getting them ready for this game. That's a little nugget for you. But he was in here to watch him practice. Then he met with Calipari, he and his dad. And he told me, I'm coming back for a visit. We're talking about setting one up still during football season. And so if he ends up, he told me he's going to wait till the spring. I've tweeted out the video that I had with him earlier today. I was at Springdale High School for practice before I came back down to Fayetteville to cover this game. But he plans to visit. He told me he was coming to this game tonight, so he was here. So even though Arkansas doesn't have any weekend visitors, they did have Isaiah Cely in the house attending the game tonight. So they did have a recruit in here. I guess you could look at it that way. But this is a situation, he's visited Ole Miss, St. Louis. He just got an offer today from Boston College in the ACC. But I think Arkansas is going to try to make it work to bring get a commitment from him at some point. And I wouldn't rule out an early commitment. It may end up taking to the spring like he talked about. But I think they can make room for him based on things that Calipari continues to say, because we know Arkansas's 3 freshman class, technically there's more than that. So we just have to see how he shuffles things around and would want to get that done. But I think in some regard, Arkansas has let him know. I mean, Calipari offered him a scholarship. That's the first thing. The second part is they've had him down here now for a practice. They've gone to see him at least 3 times at practice at Springdale High School. And now he's in conversations with Calipari about what to do moving forward. So there's some more recruiting intel for you that you can't get anywhere else. Man, there's just really a lot going on as we get closer to this early signing period. And then you put a performance like this out here, SEC Network televised it. These highlights are going to be splashed around. No, it was Razorback beat writer malpractice that I didn't stick around in that media room to hear Arkansas's players after. But again, it's getting so late. Now I'm 35 minutes in. But I wanted to impart some stuff with you guys related to the recruiting, the Malik Thomas. Again, if he ends up on that Kansas State campus, that means some of the interesting twists and turns that were going on before are back in play, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's over now at this point, and it's really over when he makes the public announcement. And again, the more people I talk to, I think Sean Abayev, they feel good about where Arkansas is there, and now you're just trying to figure out a way, whether it's Caleb Wilson, whether it's Chris Sanak, who visited Arkansas, another 5-star, 6'10", 6'11", Caleb Wilson 6'9", Nate Ament 6'9". Let's see how long that takes, and if Arkansas gets him on campus, probably leaving somebody out here, but it's getting late and I need to get back home. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me on Hogvillenet YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. If you haven't done it yet, please go hit subscribe, like, and share. I probably didn't get into as much stuff as I should have or wanted to tonight, but I've got to finish up this game story, get everything packed up, and get back down the hill. But until next time, if something breaks over the weekend, we're coming right back on. I'm Giddy Go Hogs. We are good. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas did a lot of good things tonight. And you wonder how good they can be with Jonas Adu. You wonder, when you look at Billy Richmond and Carter Knox, we didn't talk a lot about, you wonder, how much of the needle will they move? Carter Knox did a couple of good things offensively, getting to the basket. There was one stretch where Kansas kind of made a run, and he got a 3-point play, got an and one. There was a really nice play, I think, in the first half when Nelly Davis got a steal, and then he threw over and across from right to left. He threw over Kansas's transition defense. Threw right over it to Carter Knox, and Carter Knox just cruised in and, big boy to a layup. He didn't dunk it. He got a late challenge at the basket, but he's big and physical and skilled, and he finished that. So there were some things Carter Knox as well, and speak as much on him. I know I was saying goodbye, and then I get right back into what I do. Thanks again, everyone, for joining me tonight. We'll see. We don't know when the next time we'll hit here, but this was a great way for Arkansas Razorbacks to start their era under John Calipari. Even though it's a charity exhibition game, even though it wasn't all hands on deck, you still had a 16-point win over a team that's got a number 1 in front of it, and it's a blue blood coach, blue blood program. It's the Kansas Jayhawks. If we really want to go back and look at it historically, Arkansas done well against Kansas in the series. I think they're 6-8 in favor of Kansas, but I think they had won 4 in a row in games that count. And then tonight, it's a little feather in your cap for the preseason. Doesn't mean anything later. We know that. We learned our lesson last year. It's still fun to talk about tonight. All right, I really am saying goodbye now. Thanks again. I'm Kevin McPherson. Until next time, I'll see you then.